In it. All right. I think our super fan here is here. Linda Langdon is in the house. Hello, Linda. And we were just chit chatting and forgot all about starting up. But I'm glad you're here, sweetheart. You're always here as our super fan. We were just talking about the waiting period, the waiting, what do you call it? The waiting period?
The waiting season.
The waiting season, the waiting season. And now break that down for me again. What you call the waiting season?
Okay, basically, the waiting
Come on in
season,
here.
um, based off of scriptures where again we may find it in Psalms 27 and Isaiah 40 when we hear those that wait upon the Lord, he shall renew their strength and they shall mount up wings as eagles. Again, the psalmist said in Psalms 27, verses 13 and 14, I would have fainted unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. He said, wait on the Lord and be of good courage, and he shall strengthen our heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. And so oftentimes when we talk about waiting, we think it's a time where we're being inactive, we're not doing a whole lot. It means to rest from labor. And that's not actually what that word is interpreted as, especially in the Hebrew. It comes from the Hebrew word kavah, which is spelled Qavah, which means to expect or to look forward to. And so the waiting season can be a very hard and difficult time for so many people, as we was talking right before the broadcast, and as we was talking about last week, where we have been conditioned to be performance based, where you think we could get more, uh, God to be more aware of us, and we could get the blessings of the Lord and get these magnificent manifestations by the much things that we do. And that
Mm-hmm,
is not
mm-hmm,
actually the case. Because
mm-hmm,
again, for those who have ever been in the culture of the church, we have been taught to pray much, to fast much, to give much, to do all these different rituals. And we've been made to think that by doing it, it makes us more spiritual and there we get closer to God. And that
mm-hmm,
is not
mm-hmm.
actually true, because what about the person that is doing all of that and nothing is happening?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so,
I was just saying to Dad before we went live, we often watch the videos of people who are in church, and particularly the culture of the church that we were in and you were in. And I realized that a lot of the things that we did, God never required,
exactly.
never demanded, nor required. And then God never needed from us.
Mhm.
You want this, honey? No, I'm just moving it over. Put it right here. So yeah, so we were caught up in a lot of fantasy, a lot of
Exactly.
fantasy. But
Great.
I wanted to say this in this waiting season, you call it. I want to call it a phase.
Hmm.
It's like a phase that a lot of people enter into, particularly those of us who've been performance oriented. Like you said, we had to do this and had to do that and all carry out all these rituals and all of these things, thinking God was requiring it of us. But it's a phase that we all go through where everything just dies down.
Exactly.
It just dies down, and it's almost like it goes through the fire.
Hmm.
And when and it's gonna go through the fire, and you will only know if it was actually real when it comes out on the other side.
Hmm.
If it comes out on the other side.
Exactly.
But that waiting phase, season, period, whatever you want to call it, is it's almost like it feels like God is hiding.
Exactly.
It
Exactly.
feels like God is hiding. But I wanted to point something out in Genesis 3 and 10. And good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Leslie. Good afternoon, Oliver. Hello, 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 Carolyn, and Deb. Hello, sweetheart. So in Genesis 3 and 10, it says this. And he said, this is after they had eaten of the fruit in the garden. It
Hmm.
says, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid. because I was naked and I hid myself.
Mm-hmm.
So God came into the garden, if the narrative is true, without fail, the same way he always had. The hiding wasn't God hiding, it was us. It's us hiding. We are hiding from God because of our guilt and our shame and feeling like we don't measure up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it is not God, it's not God hiding. God's never been hidden. He's in plain sight. But
Mhm.
we have habitually hidden ourselves from God. And then in an egotistical mindset, tried to find our way back to it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, on last week, I shared with you guys Isaiah 40, verse 27 from the Message translation, when it made mention about how the people were complaining and said, why would you ever complain, O Jacob, or whine, Israel, saying, God has lost track of me? All right. And so a lot of people feel that way. They feel like he doesn't care what happens to them. And so we established the fact when it said, God does not come and go.
Mm-hmm.
And so, see, that's what a lot of people are conditioned that by us doing all these different rituals, we can get God to show up, you know, in our
Yeah,
lives and do all these
yeah,
different things. And when we're not doing it, He's leaving us, and that is not the case. He does not come and go. He is forever present. But like I try to help people to understand what a lot of people are really desiring is the active presence of God. And so again, I did
yeah,
the with someone that they were standing and I had my back turned to them, and so I asked the question to the congregation, is this person present? And they said yeah. I said, but I can't see him. You
that's
guys are
good.
saying that they are present, and so I'm looking for a feeling or indication that this person is present. So then I asked the person to take their hand and put it on my shoulder, and so I put their hand on my shoulder. Okay, now I'm feeling something. So now he's been active, and now I'm looking for a feeling. And I said, that's what we're guilty of. We're
Yes.
guilty of looking for a feeling or indication that God is
Mhm.
present, where God is always present. Always.
Always.
And so we just want him to be active in doing these great and marvelous things. Like, for example, Elijah, when Elijah was running, according to the narrative, when he was running from Jezebel, because Jezebel threatened to kill him and destroy him. And so
Mm-hmm.
he went into the cave, and the Lord met him there, spoke to him there, and said, unto him concerning, I was not in the storm, I was not in the lightning, I was not in the earthquake, I was not in the fire,
Mm-hmm.
but he was in a
Mm-hmm.
still small voice. And so
Yes.
looking for these miraculous things to happen in order for us to say God is present.
And in Ephesians 4:18, it says, well, I'll back up to the 17th for clarity. It says, this I say therefore and testify in the Lord that you henceforth walk not as other Gentiles walk in the vanity of their mind, having, in the 18th verse, having the understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of God through the ignorance that is in them because of the blindness of their heart.
That's good. That's a good scripture, man. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So God has never been hidden and never been far away. It's just, and even the act says, in him we live, move, and have our being. So
Mhm.
there's no possible way that God is not here, or God is not present, or God is not actually imminent. But
Mhm.
it's the ignorance that's in us. It's the guilt, the shame, the blame, the fear. All of that is what's hidden God from us. Also, you when you gave your illustration of standing there and the other person behind you, in actuality, if you look at it from outside of time and space, that person didn't exist for you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Not, in fact, nothing behind you existed for you.
Exactly.
So right now, you don't know what's behind you or if anything at all is behind you. Is it only there when I turn around and look?
Hmm.
Is it only there when my senses pick it up? It's like they ask the question: if a tree falls in a forest and nobody's there, does it make a sound?
Make a sound, yes.
So is there really something behind us? Is there really sounds that are there that aren't being made? So it goes back to we're on this linear plane. Everything is horizontal, and so we don't understand that the world that we live in is our perception.
Exactly. Exactly.
And God's not in our perception.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we got some good comments. Oliver's coming in. He says, the church became the modern day Levitical priesthood system of sin consciousness, guilt, and fear. Exactly. That's what the church has pushed.
Yep.
And I have to admit, we were guilty of it. We pushed it.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny how even with that, because that deals a lot with the law. And again, it's law that makes us conscious of sin. All right. If there was no law, there would be no awareness of sin whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And so we preach so much about not being legalistic, which all we actually did was tear down one system and created another system. Because going back again to the rituals and the ceremonies, if we don't do this, then God ain't going to show up. Like we have to conjure him up and so forth and so on. And so we have been guilty of going through this vicious cycle of being so very legalistic, and it has really interfered with us being relational.
Yes, it has. It really has. And I'll be honest with you. You jump in anytime. Jumping anytime. You're a little bit far away from me. You half in the picture, half out. If you don't mind squeezing in just a little bit. So I forgot what I was going to say now.
Leave it alone.
Leave it alone. Okay. Well, exactly. I probably should leave it alone. But anyway, Brand's come in. Hey, sweetie pie. She says, I know for me, I've been looking for confirmation that I'm moving in the right direction. And what do you want to speak to her about that? What do you want to say to her about that?
It was I thought you was going to jump in on it, but and that's another thing. And we've all been placed in that position of, again, right or wrong. All right, because she wanting to know confirmation if she's moving in the right direction. Well, where's the confirmation of showing you that you're going in the wrong direction?
Exactly.
Why would you feel like
been my point? Yes.
You see what I'm saying? And so that's one of the things we have been placed in this state of mind of always looking for a sign. When again, Jesus even said that is for those that are not looking for a sign is in a better place of awareness than we are. That's constantly looking for a sign. And if we don't see a sign, we feel like we're doing wrong or we're missing God and so forth and so on. And so again, I believe again through these talks and the class that y'all do with becoming more aware, that is the key. The key is for us to become aware or come alive or waking up to our authentic self rather than allowing ourselves to be put in this confinement of dealing with the attachments, the performances, the much doing in order to be considered spiritual.
Yes, and I want to speak I do want to speak to what she's talking about, because we all have those times when we want to know for sure. Unfortunately, most of us live in uncertainty 99% of our lives. And the fear of making the wrong decision, the wrong move, haunts most of us, Brandy. Most of us have that same fear. However, I want to say this to you, not to tell you what to do or not do, but the question that should be asked is not if this is the right thing to do or if this is what God wants me to do. The question should be, is this particular move that I'm about to make or that I'm considering going to help me in the forward move of my evolution in every area of my life? Or is it going to hinder it and delay it? That's the question that should be asked. And then the decision may have to be made in the face of uncertainty and not being afraid of making a mistake. Because
Exactly.
even if you make the mistake, it can be redeemed. So I
Exactly.
understand exactly where she is. I know exactly where she is. I don't want I don't want her to fall in. I don't want any of us to fall into this place of I got to have God's mind on this, because a lot of times God won't give you any clues.
Exactly. Exactly. And see, and that's the thing again. And I can identify because I've been where Brand has been.
We all have,
Especially
yes.
y'all guys as well, especially when you place in this position to be a leader,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
provide,
Yeah,
divine guidance and stuff like that. You don't want to
yeah,
mishandle the
yeah, yeah.
people.
And as a matter of fact, I heard Maxwell, who does church growth seminars all the time. He said, if you're a leader and nobody's following, you don't know where you're going. You're just taking a walk.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
a lot of times, I felt like we were just taking a walk.
Exactly. I've been there. Then I've been there. Been those seasons where I know exactly where we're going. I
Yeah.
know what we need to do. I came up with the strategies and the methods, but then that's only good for a certain season. All
Yes.
right. And
Yes.
so then there's a transition. That's the space between two seasons. Like, for example, I used last night, and you said you saw the broadcast. Remember the children of Israel, if the narrative is true, when Moses had came down from having his time with God from the mountain, and he was sharing, there were leaders that said, well, we want to hear God for ourselves.
Mhm.
Moses didn't have a problem with that. So they asked, take us where you communicate with God. So Moses take them to the mountain. The Lord speaks, and it
Yeah.
sounds like thunder, and they can't handle the voice of God. And so they now, Moses, we don't want to talk to God no more. You talk to him. And so
Yeah.
it was crazy because they end up residing there. They set up camp there, all because of their experience that they had with God at the mount. But that's
Yeah.
not where God had desired for them to end up. It was
Yeah.
Canaan.
Yeah.
And so through Moses, God spoke to the children of Israel, and he made a statement in Deuteronomy chapter 1, I think around verse 6 or 7, where he said, you have been in this place far too
Mhm.
long. So he
Mhm.
tells them to get up, turn, and take your journey. And so we all are guilty of that where we have these
Yes.
great experiences with God, we want to build a memorial there.
Yeah.
We want to
Yeah.
stay right there. And
Yeah.
that may not be the place where God is saying is your final destination. And so you
Exactly.
allow certain things to disrupt us, to make us become uncomfortable so that we can get up and
Yeah.
move on. Yep. And so that's what we have to and you use
Yeah.
the word
Wow. That's good. That's good.
evolving. We have to always remember, as long as we are here, we will continue to evolve.
Yes, yes. Is this environment that I'm about to embark on, is this place, is this event, this situation, is it going to further my understanding of my deeper self? Is it going to be conducive for my further evolution, my further awareness of God in my life? Is it going to potentially move me in a direction where I will be freer in my inner self? Is it going, even if you're talking about a particular job, is the culture of that company, is the culture of that job going to be conducive for my evolution? Is it going to cause me to go into more drama and upheaval, chaos? Those are the questions that have to be asked on the inside. And you may not get a direct answer for that without doing some research.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's
And
all
and the,
about everything being applied. We have to apply.
and the research that needs to be done is on ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
so going back to what Brand had asked, I would say get out of the box, get rid of the box.
Yes.
What if there was a blank
Yes.
slate before you?
Yes.
What
Yes.
what would you do? You see what I'm saying? And so that's something that a journey again that I've been on, and I always make reference to the pandemic because like I said, it's been such a great time for me as an individual. All right. Might not have been so comfortable for others, or a great place, but it has been for me because there has been so much that I become aware of concerning me. And so again, remember, I realized that I was in this box all these years and didn't even know it, and I was having great success. I was again one of the most popular revivalists in the area, and so forth. And to hear God say, in spite of all the great things that have been accomplished and so forth, did you realize you was doing this from a place of confinement?
Yeah, and and you pointed out, when Jesus was in the situation with Peter and he was asking, who do men say that I am? He was faced with the event of the crucifixion. He knew that was coming, if the narrative is true. And when he said that it had to be, that had to be what he was going to do and go into, Peter, of course, said, no, be that far from you. We don't want you to do that. You're at the peak of your ministry. That's not the best thing, not the best move for you to make. Don't say that. And Jesus said to him, you savor the things that be of men and not of God. So in our human thinking, the things that be of men, our human thinking, and you said, get out of the box. Our human thinking is God's going to intervene and tell me everything.
Exactly.
But that is not always the case. We cannot, it's like your child. You can train your child, but you can't tell your child everything to do. At some point, that child, and you're talking about seasons, there is a season where you relinquish trying to tell your child everything. You don't tell them when to get up, when to go to bed, when to brush their teeth, when to wash their face. You don't tell them everything. You allow them the freedom to make mistakes, the freedom to fail, realizing that it can all be redeemed. And that's sometimes the only way we learn. We can't learn if everything's perfect all the time. That's how we human beings learn. Exactly. So, and it said Jesus even learned by all of the things that he suffered. He learned obedience by the things he suffered. So that means he went through some things and made some mistakes.
Exactly.
Waiting on God is not giving up the fact that you're him.
Right.
Exactly.
Waiting on God is a procrastination of not him being you. My wife go to the store. Somebody call. May I speak to Sister Sawyer? She's not here. She's at the store. That has to be removed. When she goes to the store, I am her at the store. And when she come back, I don't talk to her like, she just come in the door. She didn't come in the door, and she never went to the store without me. You catch what I'm saying? The turnaround. The ability of the big lie is God or my true self has to have a break, or is taking a break by seeking God. Stop. The ego was cast out and failed. The ego is a ghost with a toothache. That has never been you and will never be you. You have always been that is never separated. You want to ask the question, when's the last time you saw Jesus?
I'm looking at them right now.
Are you saying that because your memory, or you saying that because it is a fact? Don't answer that, because if you do, it's going to be too quick. Let it tenderize the meat. Let it sit overnight, because you're going to find out, like he said to me, have I not been you in bed with myself 54 years? He that have seen his opposite sees his present moment. Now, once this is settled, that I am not ever separated from my true self. That's it.
Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm.
This. All right. The key to the miraculous. There is no key. The seeing the miraculous. There is no seeing, because once this is settled, you'll never watch this. You'll never have to ask for guidance. You'll never have to seek God for direction. You'll never have to pray to get something. You'll never have to fast and pray to increase awareness. This is all was supposed to be done by fully seeing the truth of identity. That's the only way. If it says, if you through the Spirit mortify, if you through the Spirit function as brick and mortar, when mortar is put together with brick, it freezes it. We call it. I told you about the glue grabbers, cement grabbers. The mortuary means something is froze. You haven't froze awareness enough to see. You'll never have to pray the way you've been praying, seek the way you've been seeking. That's the reason why people call me and they say, I try to go to church, but I can't go no more because I didn't heard what you talk about and all this kind of stuff of being oneness. Well, that's true. What happened is that the religious ego died.
Yeah.
You cannot kill ego by knowledge, even though it comes and goes. You kill ego by revelation.
Exactly.
And the revelation is beingness. You don't get this. You don't church this. You don't legalize it. Here's what you do. Nothing. You do nothing. You didn't find me. I allowed you to discover. That is the key to the miraculous. Now watch this. The average person will go only so far in the identity of Jesus. The monkey says, "You going around telling everybody you God. You going around telling everybody that God is you. Thou sayest." Pilate said, "What does this say here about you being the King of Jews? Are you the King of Jews?" He said, "Thou sayest." Out of your mouth. You just told me who's standing in front of you. Go, I'll tell you how to find the last time you found Jesus. Go look in the mirror. And do away with, that ain't him. That's me. You lost it right then. You still, just because you haven't seen who it is in the mirror reflecting back to itself, does not mean that ceased to exist. I'm sorry. It's too late. You are gone. It's too late. You've never been there. It's too late for you to start seeking after God, because the next person that you're going to wake up to is your real self.
Exactly.
That settles everything from Genesis to Revelation and in the Course of Miracles right there. If you can, and I'm going to be honest with you, it ain't going to leave very much for anybody to do. Because when you boil this tater down, you're gonna see Jesus in the unbelief that he is you. Belief and unbelief no longer exist once you see him. That's when I tell him, I let go of the false one and took the real one. But if you take the real one, you will find him being the one that's looking at himself in the mirror. And you'll never have to ask, seek, knock, or open again. The sin is a word overused. And it's nothing but not being able to hold fast to who it is. No longer I that live, but Christ. You don't even talk about it. You don't read about it. But there will be a time when you will find out that the next step you take to moving deeper into that awareness is your imagination. You have to remember this. Whatever you eat, it goes in one form and it assimilates itself into being you. He said, drink my blood and eat my flesh. That's the end of it. Once you eat it by revelation and swallow it, it is no longer the form that was coming into your mouth. It changes into you. God has changed into us. And I'm sorry, you can act like a fool if you want to and look for you somewhere else, but you'll never find it. And if you do find him, you're going to find a dead cow on the side of the road that never can live again. You can eat the beef, kill him fresh if you want to, but you'll never find God anywhere else than sitting right there in that chair. That is one of the hardest pills for the ego to give up. So what God does to the ego is a supernatural thing. It is a natural, but it is natural in the sense that once revelation is revealed, and what I'm saying to you, the ego die. It don't cease to exist. It just die. And you can't do that by positive thinking, confession. You can't do it by going to church. You can't do it by studying the Bible. You can't do it by studying the course. All that'll do is activate your left brain to give off the lie that because you found out about it in understanding, this that I'm talking about ain't supposed to make sense.
It's beyond understanding.
Yeah, exactly.
If it makes sense, you ain't there. You ain't found out yet. You got to, and put it, I'm gonna be radical with you. You got to become crazy as hell.
Very well said, Dad. Very well said.
You're crazy as hell. And that's what the word, and that is when you'll start hearing what Jesus experienced with Peter. Who do men say that I am? You will see the Christ. If you ever tell anybody the truth of where Christ is, they won't be around you long.
Exactly.
Because the ego don't want to be around the truth of the revelation that who is standing in front of itself is God the Father. You are the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost.
And Dad, when you said that, and when you mentioned the word the cow on the side of the road, I thought about the sacred cow. And even when the children,
I didn't know what to say.
They made the idol, and it was in the form of a cow.
That's right.
And so I thought about that. Mankind, especially when it comes to religion, we're addicted to images. We're always looking for something to represent or a physical appearance of something to worship or to represent us. And remember, God even mentioned to Moses, he said, have no graven image. All right. And so that when we're operating outside of ourselves, we're always looking for something to represent, something that would give a form of identity when we don't need any of that. We are the image of God. We are him. We are one with him. And so when you start talking like that, it does sound crazy, because what you're doing is destroying the conditioning of people that have been conditioned to think a certain way. And so, yes, I've had that situation happen where I was sharing that many, many years ago about who we really are. And the guy left and told everybody, I said, we are God. And so they totally missed everything I was saying and so forth. And of course, y'all know me, I'm going to use scripture to explain everything. But that's the thing. Even in our society today, it's all about images. We're captivated by the celebrities and the lifestyle of the rich and famous. Everything is about that. And so we're looking for a representative or something that we're trying to arrive with. Like you said, all we have to do is do nothing and be our authentic self. It's not craving those things.
My godfather told me one time when I was driving down the street where they live, this real quiet place, and I was driving my Land Cruiser, and I just flying going down through that curve. When I got to his house, he came home from walking the dog. He said, "Boy, you done lost your damn mind." That's what he said to me. And I told him, I said, "We don't have funerals in our church. We have them at the funeral home." He said, "You done lost your damn mind again." And I knew then I was on the right track.
Well, but Dad, notice now, notice this now. What did you just say?
I lost my damn mind.
So now that right there, you saying that, and I'm gonna just use myself for example.
Oh, you lost yours too.
You saying that you just destroyed my image of you.
Oh, excuse me.
You know what I'm saying?
Sorry.
No, I know I'm using that as an example.
When he take you out to dinner?
That don't faze me whatsoever.
Yeah, you're right. That somebody watching him has this image of him. And when they hear that, then all of a sudden they lost,
Yeah, because my image of a preacher is he won't never use that word.
No, preacher won't.
But you'd be surprised how many preachers
actually use
that word.
Yes,
you see what I'm saying? So now that brings us to that place of we know who you are when you in public.
Yeah.
But we would never know who you are privately unless we are there with you.
But you're not authentic until you are in public what you are in private.
Exactly.
You cannot be authentic without being the same. And that's what has happened, unfortunately, in our religious circles. People have hidden who they truly are, what they really look like. And so we've idolized men and women that we think are pure, holy, sanctified, whatever you want to call it, walking above reproach, never making a mistake, never saying the wrong thing, or what we consider inappropriate. But all of that's a falsity because behind closed doors, they're all of that. They're doing all of that.
The next time you do a class, do it in first person. You have to watch your tone. And watching your tone is called the Christ self observing who's doing the talking. You can preach the best sermon in the world when you stand before your congregation and not even open your mouth. Stand there and look at them. Let them behold the Christ who operates out of stillness.
Now, I love that example, Dad, because again, you're destroying religious conditioning. Say that happens. Say that happens.
Say that happens.
I use myself.
Let's say that happens.
Say that actually happens. All right. I go to church. I get up on. Dad, you
say it. Then
try it. Let's try it.
Did you say that happened?
He said, let's
so
say
I get up there.
Okay.
I get up there and I'm introduced. I'm brought up and I stand on that stage and I say nothing. I do nothing. I just like you do exactly what you said.
Yeah, what happens?
Religious conditioning. Again, we talk about religious conditioning. You have just destroyed my perception of what a worship or church service is supposed to be about. All right. And I walk right off the stage and everybody's going to be puzzled what just happened. So now I'm going to be considered crazy. It's going to be considered, man, we didn't have church. You see what I'm saying? All because they would not allow themselves to wake up to their authentic selves to hear what was said without a mumbling word.
Well, you know, and you can take it out of the context of even church. You stand in front of any body, one person or 2,000 people, and don't say anything, do anything. They're gonna just sit there and look at you like for a minute. They're not gonna stay there long, and they're gonna walk away because they're gonna think that you're out of your mind.
Exactly. Now it's funny because Dad did something to me back in, I believe it was in 1987, 88. I never forget this. I just had a flashback. I remember Dad was preaching on McConnell Road. He was preaching, and he said, "Norman, come here, stand right here." And so I'm standing there. So of course, I'm thinking he's going to use me for a demonstration or something other like that.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Stand right here."
And that's
I
all.
stood right there.
How long has that been?
For a whole hour. It might have been almost 2 hours because we had small church. And then he turned around and said, "You can sit down now." So you know my mind is messing with me. Okay, what was that all about? You see,
that's who Christ is.
Other people, I'm sure other people had to say, "Why you don't understand right there?" And he forgot that he was there. What? But as I reflect on, like I said many years ago, and I thought about it, I knew it was part of a training. It was part of some things being destroyed or broken within me, so I would discover again my authentic self.
Yeah. Well, you realize too that when you speak from that first person, and I'm not saying not to do it, I'm just saying this is what happens. When Jesus made certain statements, he sounded arrogant.
Oh, yes.
So a lot of times people mistake that for arrogance.
You remember Oprah Winfrey went to a retreat where they didn't talk for so many days?
I do. Oprah went to a silent retreat.
Yeah.
And nobody was allowed to speak. I think for maybe
for
like 2 or 3 days.
They did.
She said on the third, by the time the third day, well, before the third day, the first and second day, she said her mind gave her a fit.
Yeah.
The third day was really interesting. She said that they all knew what to do without anybody saying anything. They all would meet in the cafeteria or wherever they were going to have dinner at the same time. She said it was just really awesome. They all had that inner knowing without a word being spoken.
You are the living word of God. You are the living Bible. You must say this and let your imagination fulfill it by convincing your subconscious mind that this is truth. Mm-hmm. And the truth of you, one of the main truths that has to be accepted is that you cannot get eternal life because you've already been eternal beings. And that means you are in a God class with or without a quota.
Yes. So that's my point. If you're in a God class, you should not sit back and wait. But you should move
seeing and knowing
with a calculated decision.
Yes.
One that's been very well thought out. Yeah. And then trust that if in the event you're making the wrong move, that there is, because of the love of God, an intervention that will stop you and pause you before you make a mistake. That's where trust comes in.
The contracts have been fixed Before you came here, watch this now. On living paper, you wrote down every event without any space in it because it was filled. There is no space in words, paragraphs, or statements. There's no in between being 1 minute God, next minute you. That
Mhm.
is the space is filled. You're now filled space with all of your Christ self
Mhm.
awareness.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and
You
when,
had
when
something
you
you
were
want to
talking
say?
about
Glory.
Oprah, when you
Glory.
was talking about Oprah, and how on what happened on the third day, first thing that came to mind, they became like the collective. They didn't have to literally say anything. They were able to operate as a one unit together
Yeah.
without even speaking. There was a knowing, there was an awakening that happened, and they weren't even conscious of it.
That's it. That's it.
Space and paragraphs and question marks is removed.
Mhm.
And it's removed because it's filled. You are now that feeling feeling full. Ain't no room for nothing else. There's no distance. It's no more middleman.
Mhm.
It's no more block to block, curve to curve. There's no more yellow lines down the middle of the highway. There's no more passing zones and speed zones. They'll remove. Now don't go ahead and drive your car like a fool and run a red light. You're gonna kill Jesus. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna kill him again. And once this is understood, I'm looking forward. I hear a round table. I'm gonna say it in the natural. I'm looking for a round table uh, fellowship church, a big.
Discussion.
I
Mhm.
want a round table.
Mhm.
Well, if it's 100 people, I want a round table of 100 people. If it's 1,000 people, if it's 5 people, if it's 500, if it's 2 or 3, I want a round table. I want. And Moo just said this. I don't want to hear nobody else but your pure self talking. And
Mhm.
when they start talking and it doesn't sound like it, he said, you haven't gone deep enough into who you are. And then they stop. He said, I don't want to hear nobody. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear you. I want to hear the real you. And they ain't got much to, hey, they ain't got a whole lot to say. Because God, your real self don't have much to say. I think we're talking too much now. I mean,
Well,
really.
no, now, Dad. It's funny that you said that because this was a question that I had go through my mind before we actually got on the broadcast. With all of this information, and remember, this whole thing start impromptu started, and Mom, you started out with divine guidance. We talked about the subject of
That
divine
was the
guidance.
subject.
With all of this information that we are receiving, how do we practically apply it to our lives?
That's my question. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I can tell you.
Because I understand the language
Yeah.
and I love the language, but to practically apply it, people have to know how to do
Okay,
that.
here's the way you do it. And you don't know, I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah, go ahead.
When this is over, what do you got to do? You said you had something to do after you get through with the class.
Well, tonight, oh no, I don't. I have nothing to do.
So you're free
I'm free
from doing anything after this class.
after this class. I'm free.
That's the way you practice it. You know, and what? Here's my point. Let's just say when you got through, you need to go to the grocery store. That's the way you practice it. Let's just say you need to go put gas in your car. That's the way you practice it. Let's just say you ain't got nothing else to do. That's the way you practice it.
Okay.
So now that's okay for us who understand the language.
No language no more.
No, watch
See,
it now.
that's an either
So
or.
when we bring, because you talked about you want a round table
Mhm.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
have people to come, and we're
Now,
going to
how does that
from our
round table
first person.
manifest?
They're going to want
Well,
to know,
now,
how do I? Because there are those that are, I don't want to mention names, but
yeah,
certain that we do are very familiar with. I'll say one, Master Prophet Jordan. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Called to period. They're speaking that language. They've awakened. They're in their place of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they have been able to use the wisdom and insight in a practical way that is causing certain things to happen in their lives.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
way you do it.
That would be so. I'm asking as the advocate for other people.
I know that's
how,
look.
how do
Like he
we?
wants. Okay, I'll give you a really. It's really simple because in his envisioning, he sees a round table with an open discussion with all of these people. The mind has to be used to make that happen.
Okay. I just started making it. I'm creating it now.
I understand that too.
It's
It begins there.
But
It begins there.
but I'm pulling it out from the vision and the image
I know. Yeah.
with these
Yeah.
words.
Yeah.
Now let me say this to you. Somebody asked about how do you know when God's telling you to do something. I don't mess with that no more. I ain't asking God, should I go to the store? Should I stay home?
Oh no, we're not talking about that.
I won't be bothered with that.
No.
That's just too much.
Yes.
Overkill.
It is.
Well, to go back to that, why would we even have a mind if God is going to tell us to do I mean, literally, we would be like a robot. I mean, him telling us everything we need to do. So now we have to think about that. If he created us in his image and in his likeness, which means he's a thinking entity, we are a thinking entity as well. We do understand that we think collectively as one. All right. So now, even going back to what Brand had asked earlier, one of the things that we have to do is trust our God self.
Yes.
We have.
Well, that means rest, peace.
Mm-hmm.
I have been given the right and the authority to create my own world.
Sure.
That's God.
And God ain't going to mess with it. That's what they don't understand. And God, the supreme being,
Only way you're gonna mess with it was when you mess with it.
because this is the world that you decided that you want to create it as a God entity.
That's it.
Now I have to say this, that Dad has in a way been spoiled, because when he envisioned something like that, somebody would pick it up and make it happen.
Exactly.
But they had to apply the certain principles of mind, strategies, all of this to get it done. And that's what we're talking about. It's not a either or. It's not one is better than the other. But because there are times when the mind has to be incorporated in order for it to manifest. And that's all that we're saying. So we understand the mystical language is beautiful, and I love it. And I agree with everything that you're saying. But it has to make a connect so people can actually walk it out. And I like what Marvita said. She said, I get it. It's walking it out from the inside out. When we center ourselves, we will have the ability to hear the direction from the inside and just do. And that's true.
Yeah. And you do it every day. You're doing it now.
Yeah, it's really not a conflict.
Did you ask to come on this show today, or did you ask to come on at 12:30? Did you see God? If you did, you didn't have to, because we were coming on anyway. All you did was say that I think I'm gonna do an impromptu today at 12:30. You just did. That's it. It's sanctioned.
Yes.
Now this is rest. Now,
and you have to start from that place of rest.
Okay. Now, if I say I like a round table, that's a prayer.
It is.
And that is a conversational prayer.
Yes.
That's a conversation of I amness. Okay. Oh, God, I feel that.
It is. It is. And somebody is the instrument to make it happen.
If it is,
if
it's
not.
So
now you're mentioning, because that's why I said, okay, because my mind is going already.
I've been know that was going for the first time.
But that's whole brain thinking.
Yeah,
that is what whole brain thinking is.
Because just like, for example, I think about you guys, how y'all operate. I've witnessed so many others operate. Dad would think of certain things and have such a vision of, all of these different things. And their mom, because of her administrative gifting, her skills, she has been able to take what you imagine in your mind and make it a reality. You see what I'm saying? Where people can now really be exposed to it from
and experience it. Yes, and
Exactly.
experience it. Yes. Linda says to have the faith of the mustard seed, nothing to do with size, but the knowing of what it is. A mustard seed, not any other kind of seed. It's an identity thing. We must know what we are, God as man. That's good. That's good.
It's
And
funny
yes,
that because we actually have mustard seeds in the house here. They are. Oh,
yeah.
you can barely see them.
Yeah, they're little bitty. They're little bitty.
Have you ever seen a tractor and trailer go down the highway dog tracking?
I
Do
have.
what now?
You know about it.
Yes, I do.
But have you ever seen a tractor and trailer going down the highway dog tracking?
See, some people don't even know what dog tracking
See,
is.
that's what they say. What is dog tracking?
What is dog tracking?
When you look at a tractor and trailer, is the front end on the left side more so than the back end on the right side? That means it's going down the highway sideways.
And I'll say it in another way, where you see the back end is not in alignment with the front end.
Oh, yes.
That's dog tracking.
Yeah.
That's dog tracking.
That's what it means, asking, seeking, knocking, and waiting for the truck to line up. God is saying it's crooked. God says, take it in the shop, and the mechanic says, we're going to line the back end up to the front.
Look, some of us are dog tracking in our lives.
Yeah, that's it.
We're going one way here forward, but
Yeah.
then our back end is going a whole different way. So that's that incongruence inside of us.
Congruence, that word, that's a good word.
That's the tug of war between the false self or ego and your authentic self.
Yeah, and I do know this, that the mind cannot be used to figure out that, and because we can get in that mode of trying to figure things out and never reach the manifestation of what you're desiring. Because the mind is not there to micromanage. It is only here to assist.
Laurel and Hardy, you heard of them, the comic guys. Laurel and Hardy.
Yes, I love
Laurel and Hardy was going to join they're going to join the Foreign Legion.
I remember
and join the Foreign Legion, they had to be able to shoot the bullseye. So
they had a whole line of soldiers.
There, and Laurel Hardy couldn't hit the bullseye. And the sergeant looked down and found out that they had his shoe.
All of the soldiers had their shoes on the wrong feet.
I used to watch that. I love
they were shooting creek because they were dog tracking.
Which goes back to, this is comical, but it goes back to our conscious thinking mind. What our conscious thinking mind is desiring to do or be or have, versus what is going on in the basement of our subconscious, which is the programming that's already running. Those two things must come into alignment.
Yeah.
If they do not, you will never have the clarity or the manifestation of what it is.
Here's the book.
Want to be, do, or have.
If you through the Spirit mortify the deeds of the body.
Okay, you on another track.
No, I'm on the same track.
I was getting ready to say.
Go ahead.
Moving from a place of rest.
Yes, sir.
It's got to start there.
If you through the Spirit.
And there's three things you be, do, or have.
Through the Spirit.
You must be before you can have. You must be before you do. So whatever it is that you're wanting to have, you must be that.
I like that.
One before you have it. And before you do, you have to be that one. And you use this analogy all the time. You go to school to be a plumber. At a point you graduate as that.
You become it.
Mm-hmm. You have to be that.
Then they say, if you got your license to plumb, you got your plumb license.
Yeah. So if you go back to just really practical things, like most people talk about manifesting their wealth and all of this and success, you cannot have that until you be that person. You have to be that in order to have that. But a lot of us try to have it first, and we use our affirmations to try to make ourselves be that, and that's not how it works. You cannot use an affirmation to change what you are.
when you come up here next time, Pastor Norman, if you remind me, I'm gonna show you how to go out in the yard and find a branch to make a slingshot out of. You ever heard of slingshot?
Of course, I played with them.
Have you ever made one?
He just said he
Yes,
did.
I have.
What did you make them out of?
Oak.
Oak. What kind of what? Actually, give me some steps that you do to get that oak, whatever you're looking for, to become a plum.
But I mean, we would look for something that we was able to carve and shape it. And
what was it located? Where did you find it? Where did you find that thing that you're gonna shape?
Where did you find
Yeah,
it?
you had to find something of a piece of wood that was shaped like a slingshot, right?
Right.
Or you made it. Yeah, did you make it or you find it?
I mean, we found it, and then like I said,
where did you find it from?
We did our little around where all the trees were.
Now
we
you're talking.
Trees and stuff like
that. That plum slingshot was grown out of a tree, and you find a plum out of a tree, and you cut it off, and that plum had a V.
Why do you call it a plum?
That's the tree when it split. The plum of the tree.
It's called a plum.
Yeah, it's the plum. Plum ugly, plum nasty, plum stinky.
I've never heard of that. So
Yeah,
I just
it's
thought
a
I'd
plum.
ask.
You find a plum.
I call it a Y.
Well, okay, you can find an F or Y or Z, but it's plum. It's done plumbed out.
That's all I've never heard of a plum.
Get it? Now, what I used to do, I used to find.
What's your point?
My point is that all of a sudden you have an idea. I want to make a slingshot.
Uh-huh.
Now, when you get this plum, you got to cut it off with a certain handle, and there's got to be enough space in that plum when it splits as a plum.
Yeah.
For now, what you do is take a knife and edge a line around the top of the plum where you're going to cut it off, and get you a string and take your old inner tube and cut the rubber in strips.
Yeah.
Tie it around it.
Yeah.
Get your shoe tongue.
Okay.
Plum and a tongue, and cut it and fix it where you can put a rock or marble at.
Right.
Now, what I'm talking about is image and pictures in your mind of what I'm saying to you.
Mm-hmm.
That is the God self ability to create through imagination.
Exactly.
Yes.
That tree was grown out there for you to find. Mm-hmm. Where is God? God is you.
Exactly.
God is the tree. God is the plum.
God is you finding that.
Thank you very much. That's the end of my case right there.
Yes.
I mean, just like you said, image creating. He had to have an image of us in order to create it. And what's awesome, according to the narrative, he didn't just speak man; he actually formed man. The body. The body.
God is no longer in us.
Breathe himself in it, so he had an image.
Right. Yes. He's no longer in us.
He had an image of a vehicle.
Thank you. Thank you.
He had an image of a vehicle that he put himself in. I just thought
Dad just said God is no longer in us because in us is a concept.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of us is a concept. Mm-hmm. With us is a concept. Mm-hmm. So we live in the world beyond concepts. So what does that mean?
Take it to court.
Where is God? Is he in us? Is he out? Is he out of us? Is he up there? Is he down here? Is he where God is just here?
Go for a lawsuit.
We are just here. Because anything beyond that is just a concept.
Exactly.
All lawyers in eternity.
Dad, you did not just say that. Now, how is it I'm over here thinking about lawyers and you just mentioned
because there's only one virgin mind, and that is the mind of God. And when we go into these areas and we talk ourselves out of our human minds, we enter that virgin mind. That virgin mind begins to talk. Mm-hmm. And we all, because we're one consciousness, we all say the same thing.
We think
the same thing. Yeah. Anyway, we got some good comments in our time. Our time is gone. But Marvita says, Sacred soul contracts, people along this journey strategically placed to complete the assignments given. One can get the idea and we pass it on to the next to complete the next step and so on. Yes, an alignment, Oliver says alignment, integrity, harmony. And also Oliver and his wife Yolanda are doing a study on the master key system. And it says you must be before you possess.
Exactly.
Yes. And Linda says instead of thinking of, we need to think from. Yes. Good.
Good.
Now,
Wow.
we're done. We're done.
It's
can't
called
believe it's been over an hour.
I know.
It's called the doings of God
Yes.
from the beings.
Doing from the place of being.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're doing it all the time.
Mhm.
When your mom and daddy got together, God was having sex.
Okay. Whoa.
And God was having sex in order for you to go through a process of coming into this dream through a procedure.
You just destroyed my image of a preacher. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. He loves doing that.
Oh, Lord.
I say he loves shock therapy, and he's always loved shock therapy. He likes to say something so radical, so off the wall that'll make people go, "What?" That he likes to do that. He really likes.
Dad, you need to get T.D. Jakes' new book, Disruptive Thinking.
Well, yeah, because he's good at it. He's good at it. He does.
That's what I'm saying. Because Dad is very good at
People go,
disruptive thinking.
Look, we would sit in our church and he'd get to talking that crazy talk, and people would sit there, their eyes they looked like they were in a blank stare. Just their brains were smoking.
Well, that's
None of them understood a daggone thing. None of them understood a daggone thing he said. Then somebody else would come behind him and teach it so that they could get it.
You are absolutely moving God from one state to another. If it is or ain't the United States, this thing is so gaudy.
Yes, we hear you.
It is so gaudy.
Oh my
So
Linda,
God.
thank you, my dear.
I like that.
Thank you, darling. Thank you, Brenda, for being here. Thank you,
Thank you so
Oliver.
much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Marvita. We're so glad you tuned in. Hope you're still with us, Deb. She came in early, and I think Leslie came in. Leslie, we just didn't answer that question,
did.
sweetie, because it would have taken us off course.
I did.
But you didn't answer that.
Yes, I did.
You did. Oh, you did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hope you did. He says he did.
Yeah.
All right. Carolyn, I'm glad you were here, sweetie. Brand, I hope it helped you, sweetie pie. And we're going to take off here and go get some lunch. We thank you for tuning in.
Yes.
It was good. It was good.
You remember, Leslie, whatever is just honest and of good report. That's it. That's your answer to guidance and the law.
Nobody knows what you're talking about.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, everybody else
But they're catching on. They're smart. They catch on.
You guys are smart enough, I guess.
I need Dad to come up with a book entitled "The Language of the Mystics."
Oh my God. You would not believe this, but when we were in the building on Wendover, we had that really large congregation. There was a young lady who actually asked us to do a dictionary of all of the words that he used. We never got around to doing that, but that's what she wanted. She said, because we need to know what he means when he said but yeah, that was said. That was said. But hopefully I'm here to kind of break it down to it a little bit. He calls me left brain, but that's okay. That's okay. When we do it together, we do it very well.
We do it.
That is a true
What
statement.
are we doing? Ooh, she nasty. Come on,
See you guys later.
Come on, when we do it together.
Well, we do well. We compliment
You
one another.
nasty. You just plumb nasty.
I've been called his interpreter.
There you go. There you go. You are
She nasty. Come on, when we do it together. She just ought to quit.
If I'm nasty, I got it from you.
I ain't nasty.
Got it from hanging around.
I
now.
ain't nasty. I just tell people what is really what it's all about.
Oh, well, I'm so glad you
And
did.
that ain't nasty. But when you say it,
What?
it's real nasty.
Bye, guys. We're gone.